First of all, Mr. Higgs, thank you for attending the FFF conference. I've certainly, as many in this audience, have admired you for years, and I'm so glad that you were here. It's good to hear someone in person that you so respect. You have just given us an excellent overview of the power that the incumbents and Congress has and someone such as Bush and his gang have over us. And I certainly, this is sort of a follow-up to a question that was posed to Mr. Hornberger earlier in terms of what we can do. I certainly, like everyone in this room, am a firm believer in the dissemination of ideas, and yet barring, as you said, a rebellion, how we would go about changing that. Toward that, because I deeply respect your opinion, I was wondering if you were familiar with the initiative, the National Initiative for Democracy, which Mike Gravel proposes in Citizen Power in chapters 2 and 12, that would actually give, just as we do at the state level, gives people the power to legislate. I remember Benjamin Franklin said, we gave you a republic as long as you can keep it, but at this point we do not have representative government, and I was wondering if you're familiar with that, and what are your views on the idea of a national initiative where I would think we could limit government, because before people could vote upon something, a so-called benefit, they would actually have to know the taxation that it would incur, or in the cost of Iraq. It seems to me if we had a national initiative, the American people, as you said, would never have gone for such an unjust invasion, and should the people make a mistake, they would be the ones with the power to rein that government in and stop it, even if they did. Are you familiar with it, and what are your thoughts?
I'm not familiar with that particular movement, but I am familiar with a number that are moving along similar lines. My general feeling is that our dilemma will not be remedied through political measures. I believe that our political system has shown itself to be extremely robust to twisting and turning every form of protest and reform to its own ends. And I don't believe the answer to our dilemma, either in the wars that are raging now or in our more general dilemma of being subjected to so much unjust government power, lies along narrow political lines. So long as the political culture of this country remains as subservient as it is now, so long as people do not have a sense of the violation of their rights to which they are exposed daily at every level of government, then there's no hope. Whoever is in office will be exposed to powerful incentives to sell out and be co-opted, and nearly everybody, if not everybody, will succumb to those temptations. We have overwhelming evidence of that. Many good people have been elected to office, and what do we have to show for it? Only more oppression. So I don't look for our salvation along strictly political lines. I look for it, if it's possible at all, along the lines that were described centuries ago by Etienne de la Boétie, who said that the minute we refuse to obey, all of these rulers crumble and fall to the ground. And I think the beginning of the cultivation of that kind of refusal lies in denouncing and condemning to the heavens every form of government oppression that we are subject to in this country. And by discrediting the current regime, we have some hope of bringing people to a genuine appreciation of their human rights and of insisting on freedom for themselves. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Higgs. I appreciated the serenity with which you presented a deep passion and deep principles very much. My question has to do with law, or how a certain term is used in the military, but elsewhere, lawfare. Law is an instrument of war. And I'd like to connect that with something that President Eisenhower said in his farewell address that I found over the years that very few students or others knew. In addition to the military-industrial complex, he warned about one other thing: the scientific and technological elite. In my experience involved in these things, very often the pressures from that area, I don't know what President Eisenhower meant the conditions of technology then. He knew about the projects at MIT and everything, but they've been a very important factor. But in this matter of lawfare, I know from experience in the military and the intelligence community that the lawyers are all over the place, and the sophistical deconstructions are very strong. But on the other hand, in the international community, what I saw during the Cold War, where a lot of people had the orientation of preemptive surrender, then we got into interventionist democracy, and this was a preparation for preemptive wars. So my question is, what do you think that President Eisenhower meant then, and its implications for today, of the power of the scientific and technological elite? And secondly, the effect of law and the deconstruction of law to the point where, as I've heard recently from military friends in Canada, under certain national security conditions in legal process, truth is no longer a defense.
Well, those questions
another form of lawfare.
Yeah,
I mean,
those questions are very large ones, and I can't hope to answer them well in 30 seconds. But President Eisenhower had in mind this mass of scientists, many of them ostensibly private, working in companies or universities on government contracts, as well as the people on the government side of these relationships who were developing new technologies of warfare and new ideas about fighting wars. Some of these people were geostrategists, for example, who didn't get their hands dirty with matters of hardware. But he recognized that there were many of them, and that, in a sense, this bureaucracy and its affiliates was self-directing. It's very hard to control these people. They almost move of their own momentum once they've been established and set to work. And so I think Eisenhower was apprehensive about that kind of self-moving force in that military, industrial, technological, scientific apparatus that the government had brought into being first during World War II and then during the Cold War to assist the armed forces. Now, about the use of law and the perversion of law and so forth, this takes so many forms that I would be hard-pressed to say anything quickly in response to your question, but do let me say that we have on this program some heroic lawyers, and we all like to badmouth lawyers, often for good reason, but lawyers are sometimes absolutely essential to the cause of liberty, because they can get in there and undercut the government on terms that it is more likely to recognize and comply with. So the people we will have speaking to us later in the program deserve our greatest esteem and respect, and I hope we'll all attend to what they have to say. Thank you very much.